Hi everyone, and welcome back to another EU4 video. Today we're going to be doing a guide for the nation of Milan in EU4 1.34. And before this video begins, I would just like to say, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing as it helps out the channel immensely. And now let's jump into Milan. The nation of Milan is a nation located in northern Italy, sandwiched between Savoy and Venice. Milan is actually one of the most popular nations to form Italy, along with Florence and Naples. As Milan, you are actually in a very unique position where you can not only blob and form Italy and form a massive Roman Empire potentially, you can also stick to the Italian peninsula and just play tall. Speaking of the Milanese ideas, all of them are actually really good. As you can see here, we have minus 10% idea cost, plus 1 prestige, minus 10% dev costs again, minus 15% merc maintenance, which is really nice, minus 5% tech cost, which is really amazing, plus 10% global trade power, also very nice, and a minus 10% stab cost, which is very handy. And for our starting traditions, we actually get plus 10% infantry combat ability. And once you finish all the Milanese ideas, you also get plus 20% national manpower, which is huge. Along with being a great playing tall nation with wonderful national ideas, Milan actually has one negative downside, if you consider a negative downside, that being Golden Ambrosian Republic. Basically, when you're starting ruler here, Maria Visconti dies without an heir, you are going to get this disaster called the Golden Ambrosian Republic. What happens is, of course, you become a republic, but two countries, most notably France and Austria, will get a restoration of Union CB on you. However, in this guide, I'm going to show you not only how to navigate this disaster, but also how to use the Golden Ambrosian Republic government reform as not just a disaster, but actually as a major buff to your nation. For your opening moves as Milan, what you want to do is go ahead and set up your estates. For the clergy, we're going to give out religious diplomats, religious state, and we will give out clerical advisory council after we set up to stab 1. For the nobility, we want to give out supremacy over the crown, supremacy of the nobility, and we'll give out aristocratic counselors after we step up to stab 1. For the burghers, you want to give out patronage of the arts, land of commerce. We can't give out private trade fleets because we don't have a coastline, and indebted to the burghers. Again, we'll give out commercial advisory board once we stab up to stab 1. And then don't forget to summon the diet, choose whichever agenda you like the most. I'm going to choose this one, and seize land. After you set up your estates, what you want to do here is go and find out who you can ally right off the bat. The ally that you want to prioritize above all others is Austria, as Austria can help us out in our wars here in Italy, and when the Shadow Kingdom event does happen, that's where all the Italian nations leave the HRE. We're going to want to stay in the HRE, at least for the time being. So if Austria, for some reason, happens to rival you, make sure you restart your game, as it's worth getting that Austrian alliance. So as you can see here, in our case, Austria would actually royal marry us, and we'll go ahead and ally them once we can. Another nation that you want to go ahead and try and ally is France. As an Italian nation, we are in that unique position where we're able to ally both Austria and France. So once you get a royal marriage with Austria, if you can, send a diplomat to start improving with the French, and hopefully we can ally them. For your starting advisors as Milan, for your mill advisor, you want ideally a morale of armies or a discipline guy. I don't have that, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this land force limit guy. For your diplo advisor, ideally you'd want a diplo rep or improve relations. I have a diplo rep guy, so I'm going to go ahead and take him. And for your admin advisor, just take what you have here. I'm going to take this prestige guy. As Milan, you are in a special position where you actually get a disaster called the Ambrosian Republic. Basically, once your starting ruler here dies, Maria, you will start getting this ticking disaster called the Golden Ambrosian Republic. Now, the reason I bring this up now is because you will often get these events where you get a potential heir or something like that. In this case, we actually got one that isn't one of those events. It's a new daughter. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is, normally if this was my game, I would take this. A 645 is amazing. And if this happens in your game, definitely go ahead and take it unless you, for whatever reason, want the Ambrosian Republic or you want the military dictatorship. And in my game, I'm going to say no, just to simulate what almost always happens in a Milan game where you don't get an heir and you're forced to endure the disaster. And like I was saying, after a few months of improving, you should be able to ally the Austrians, if you can't right off the bat. After allying Austria, another ally that you should try to prioritize is someone here in Italy. So after allying Austria, if you weren't able to, keep improving with the Pope, as you should be able to ally them. And after setting your initial allies, I actually was not able to ally the Pope because the Pope is actually allied to my enemy, no worries, just make sure that the Pope doesn't have negative opinion of you or else he can excommunicate you. If he doesn't, then you won't be able to get excommunicated. After getting your initial allies, go ahead and set your rivals. You don't want to set your rivals until you ally people. For your rivals, just go ahead and pick to see who has rivaled you back. In my case, Ferrara has rivaled me, Savoy, Genoa, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick Venice since they have some of our cores. And after getting your initial rivals and allies set up, it is time to start spying on a nation to prepare for our first war. Now, your first war can consist of pretty much anyone who borders you. It really just depends on who they're allied to and what the alliance networks look like. As you can see here, Ferrara is allied to Aragon and the Pope, so we can't attack them. Here, Lucca is allied to Hungary. That's still pretty powerful, so we can't attack them. Mantua is allied to Genoa, who isn't that bad, and Genoa is just allied to Mantua. No matter who you can attack in your first war, it might be Genoa or it might be Mantua or Ferrara, whoever. Make sure that you prioritize getting Genoa as soon as possible, as you can see here, that's one of our first missions, which will unlock more claims here further into Genoa and into the Emilia-Romagna era. So I'm going to start spying on Genoa so I can attack them for my first war. Oh, and since I wasn't able to ally the Pope, unfortunately, I picked Saluzzo as my other ally. The reason for that is because I just wanted someone small that I could accrue favors with very quickly, and since Saluzzo is just a tiny one province minor, oftentimes the AI, when you're at war with them, will send dozens upon dozens of troops to just sit on this one mountain province. So not only can I accrue favors quickly with Saluzzo, it can also be a very handy distraction against the AI. And now I was actually able to stab up to stab 1, or I wasn't. I got an event giving me +1 stability. And make sure once you stab up to stab 1 that you go ahead and give out these privileges for the various estates, the advisor discount privileges. So give out Commercial Advisory Board, Aristocratic Counselors, and Clerical Advisory Council. In the upcoming disaster, the Golden Ambrosian Republic, we are actually going to get events where we lose stability. However, once the disaster is over, we should be able to get back up to at least +1 stability. And after fabricating a claim on the province of Genoa or whoever might be your first war, it's time to attack them. Once again, you might not be fighting Genoa for your first war. It might be Genoa, it might be Mantua, it might be Ferrara, it might even be Lucca. Just fight whoever you can and look at the alliance networks. However, in my game, I'm going to fight Genoa for the conquest of Genoa. And for your peace deal against Genoa, what you want to go ahead and do is just take the province of Genoa itself. It's already quite a bit of aggressive expansion, and we don't want that long of a truce. So just go ahead and take the province of Genoa, no money, no war reps. And once you're able to ally at least 3 people like I was, in my case I was actually able to ally the French after all, you can go ahead and take this mission called Friends in High Places. And like I was saying, you really should prioritize taking the province of Genoa as it's key for the rest of your mission tree. And once you take the province of Genoa, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Subdue Genoa. This will basically give you claims on the rest of Liguria here, should be Genoese, and Emilia-Romagna. And after your war with either Genoa or whoever you happen to fight for your first war, it's time to look around and see who you can attack next. Pay attention to the alliance networks. As you can see here, Ferrara is actually allied to Aragon and the Pope, so I can't fight that. Lucca is allied to Hungary. However, if we had a claim and favors, I believe the Austrians would help us, and we currently have a truce with Mantua. And by this point in the game, the Renaissance should have spawned. If you're lucky, it will spawn in Milan. However, in my game, I'm not very lucky, and it actually ended up spawning in Naples, which is quite rare. However, no matter where the Renaissance spawns, what you want to go ahead and do as Milan is dev up your capital to at least 30 development. The reason we want to do that is because we want to tick off the age objective called Own a Large City, have a capital with at least 30 development. So go ahead and dev your capital. Oh, and this war here is just the 100 Years' War. The French called me in, of course. The Visconti has died, and you might get just some random guy from some random dynasty. In my case, I got this Valois guy. However, what this is going to go ahead and do is it's going to start ticking up the Golden Ambrosian Republic disaster by, in our case here, at least 30 per month. So once this starts, I'll go ahead and show you what to do. And once that disaster starts, you're going to go ahead and get this event called the Ambrosian Republic. What this is going to go ahead and do is turn you into a republic effectively. You're going to gain 5 Republican tradition and lose 2 stability. Another thing this is going to go ahead and do is give people around you a government form CB. Basically, they can attack you and change their government reform. It's also going to give France and Austria Restoration of Union CB on you as well. So when this happens in your game, go ahead and click this for St. Ambrose. Another thing that you're going to go ahead and get is, of course, an election. Just pick whichever candidate has the points that you want. I wouldn't recommend keeping your starting ruler, depending on how good he is. In my game, he's actually pretty good. However, your Republican tradition to start with is actually going to be quite low, so you don't want to lose an extra amount of Republican tradition. So just click whatever matters to you. I'm going to take this mill guy. Another event that you're going to get is called a proposition for Sforza. Basically, this is a general that you can get. You have two options here. You can put, we shall appoint him commander of our armies, or you can put, we don't need Sforza. I recommend taking the top one. This is only going to make you lose even more stability. So when this pops up, take the top option. You can go ahead and put Sforza in command of your armies. He's actually a really good general. And while I was waiting for the Ambrosian Republic to happen, I was actually fabricating a claim on Lucca. Make sure you do this when you can, as sometimes be allied to someone big. However, you never know when their ally won't join, so always have a claim built up just in case. And once the disaster fires, you can go ahead and start to get ready for your next war. You might have to fight some rebels during this disaster. However, once you get Sforza, who is a really good general, however, you can go ahead and use him to pop off one quick war against one of your neighbors. And that neighbor, in my case, is going to be Savoy, who I actually have a claim on from my mission tree. And as you can see here, this is what I was talking about, the Milanese succession. Basically, both France and Austria will get an event called the Milanese succession, and they will get a Restoration of Union CB on us. Now, you shouldn't have to worry too much about them declaring on you. I've actually personally never seen the AI declare war for the Restoration of Union of Milan. I have seen AI do the government change war. However, I've never seen either Austria or declare for the Restoration of Union. However, they might break their alliance with you if they become hostile or domineering. So do be prepared for that. And as you can see here, Austria is actually threatening to break their alliance with me. What I'm going to go ahead and do is, the reason they're threatening to break their alliance with me is because I'm allied to France. So since they're threatening to break their alliance with me because I'm allied to France, I'm actually going to go ahead and break this French alliance. That's what you should do in your game. If Austria is threatening to break their alliance with you because you are allied to France, go ahead and break your alliance with the French. It's not worth it making the Austrians upset. And even though I am currently technically still in the Ambrosian Republic disaster, don't be afraid to pop off one quick war while you're in the disaster, especially since you get Sforza, who is an absolutely god of a general. In my game, I'm actually going to go ahead and attack Savoy since I have a claim on the province of Nice from my mission. Don't be afraid to pop off one quick war against your neighbors while you're in the disaster. In my game, I'm going to go ahead and attack Savoy. And as you can see here, Austria is also threatening to break their alliance with me, even though I broke it with France. Don't worry, this is quite common. Once the AI gets a CB against you, they think that they can take you on. So don't worry, just go ahead and let them break the alliance. If you want, you can go ahead and try to ally someone bigger who doesn't have a CB on you. However, don't worry, the Austrians shouldn't declare. And after a certain amount of time, you will get this event called Sforza Clashes with the Republic. Basically, you have two options. You can become a military dictatorship under Sforza, or you can resist Sforza's tyranny. We fight for liberty. Basically, you lose 2 stability and Sforza revolts, and you maintain the Ambrosian Republic. Both of these will take you towards ending the disaster. So whether you choose to stay as the Ambrosian Republic or not, the disaster will end eventually. It's just a decision on how you want it to end. Do you want to end it as an Ambrosian Republic? Do you want to end it as a monarchy? Or do you want to end it as a military dictatorship? Personally, I like the military dictatorship, so I'm going to go ahead and choose impose military rule under Sforza. However, choosing the second one here to stay as the Ambrosian Republic is not the wrong decision. There really is no wrong or right decision. However, I like the military dictatorship, so I'm going to choose the first one. And as you can see here, Francisco Sforza is now our ruler, and we are a tier 1 military dictatorship. And after you get that Sforza event, you're going to get this next event here called Sforza Seizes the Throne. Now you have two options. You can become a duchy again, a monarchy, all hail Duke Sforza. You can stay a military dictatorship, basically you get a new guy, or you can go back to becoming the Ambrosian Republic. It basically is up to you. All of these are honestly not bad. The monarchy is not bad, the republic is not bad. Personally, I like the military dictatorship. If you don't know, with a military dictatorship, basically your generals can become rulers. So if you have a really high army tradition, you can actually get some insane rulers. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this middle one, appoint a new captain general. We are going to lose Sforza, unfortunately. The Ambrosian Republic disaster will end, and we'll just have to fight some rebels. And for your peace deal against Savoy, whether you're fighting them now or later, go ahead and take something like this. Take the province of Torino, and of course take the province of Nizza, the province that you have a claim on. Probably won't be able to take war reps unless you siege their mountain fort capital here. I wasn't able to do that, so I'm just gonna go ahead and peace out for this right here. And as you can see here, the Ambrosian Republic disaster is over. I actually had to be at peace for it to officially end. And once the Ambrosian Republic disaster is over, you should be able to re-ally both France and Austria, at the very least Austria. If you can re-ally one or the other, make sure you prioritize Austria over France. And by this point in the game, you will probably encounter the Shadow Kingdom event. That's basically where everyone in Italy can choose whether or not to stay in the Empire or leave. Of course, if you're allied to the Emperor, in my case, the Emperor is Austria, you should go ahead and stay in the Empire as you want to maintain your relation with Austria. And once you have a Republican tradition of at least 75, you can go ahead and complete this mission called Republican Yearnings. For your first government reform as Milan, you can go ahead and take Virtues of the Politia. These other ones are not too good here. Authoritarianism, the absolutism doesn't really matter, and that unrest is not that powerful. A meritocratic rule is fine. It's actually pretty good. However, the burghers' influence, as most merchant republics in Italy, is just extremely high already. So we don't want to give them even more influence than they already have. So just go ahead and take Virtues of the Politia for your second government reform. And by this point in the game, it's time to get ready to fight your next war. By this point, you've probably fought at least 1 or 2 wars against some of your neighbors. Now, in my game, I'm going to go ahead and fight Lucca, as they just right now lost all of their alliances. I don't really know how or why, but they did. So I'm going to go ahead and attack them. In your game, you might be fighting Ferrara by this point, you might be fighting Mantua, you might be fighting Genoa again, or you might be fighting Savoy for the first time. It doesn't really matter. However, by this point in the game, you should be getting ready for your third war. In my case, it's going to be against Lucca. And for your peace deal against Lucca, of course, you should just go ahead and full annex them. It's not going to be too much aggressive expansion. For your first idea group as Milan, I recommend taking plutocratic ideas. Now, if you selected either the military dictatorship or the Ambrosian Republic, then go ahead and take plutocratic ideas for your first idea group. However, if for some reason you decide to stay as a monarchy, then go ahead and select quantity ideas. However, if you are following this guide and doing what I recommended, which is either becoming a republic or the military dictatorship, then you should go ahead and select plutocratic ideas. And by this point in the game, you should be strong enough now to attack Venice. Ideally, you want to attack Venice when they are busy fighting the Ottomans in the Ottoman-Albanian War. However, oftentimes the Ambrosian Republic disaster will fire during that time, so if, like me, you actually missed that war because you're busy with the disaster, busy with some other war, don't worry, you can just go ahead and attack Venice the normal way and call in your allies. Make sure, however, that when you go ahead and attack Venice, that you attack them for the Reconquest War. Remember, they have 2 of our cores at the start of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Venice for the reconquest of Bergamo, calling in both of my allies, Austria and the Pope. And once you embrace the Renaissance as Milan, you can go ahead and take this mission called Renaissance City. And for your peace deal against Venice, you can go ahead and take something like this. Take your 2 cores here and just take 1 extra province if you can. Keep in mind, you don't want to take any more than that. In fact, you don't even really have to take Verona if you don't want to. The reason being is that we are going to get claims here from our mission tree called Recapture the Ducal Lands. Once we take these 2, then we'll get claims on the rest of these provinces here. So it's really up to you. If you want to just minimize aggressive expansion, you can go ahead and just take these 2. That's actually what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm just going to take these 2 provinces, and I'm going to use the rest of the war score to take all the Venetian money and war reps. And like I said, once you retake your 2 cores from Milan, you can go ahead and take this mission called Reclaim the Ducal Lands. And after fighting Venice, it's time to get ready for your next war. Again, like you should always do when you're expanding in Italy, look around your neighbors and see what their alliance networks look like. See who everyone is allied to. As you can see here, Genoa is actually allied to Mantua and Florence, and they're at war with the Ottomans. However, if you look here, the Florentines will actually not join, again, because they're at war with the Ottomans, and Florence is currently being sieged down by Ottoman troops. So Florence will not join, just Mantua, so I'm going to go ahead and attack Genoa for the conquest of Albenga. And for your peace deal against Genoa, your second peace deal with Genoa, go ahead and just take the province of Albanga. You can go ahead and fully annex them, take the province of Corsica, but as you can see, we can't actually take it, especially since we don't have a navy. So just go ahead and take a peace deal like this, fully annex them, or if they're still alive in Corsica, then just take the province of Albanga, take all their money, and if they're still alive, take war reps. Normally, after 2 wars like that, I would advise you to chill and let your aggressive expansion tick down. However, I just noticed something in my game. The Pope actually just excommunicated the leader of Florence, so I got some claims here automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and attack for the conquest of Pisa. You should always keep out for opportunities like this. Just because it's not in your mission tree or just because it's not in your original plans doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. And a good EU4 player always knows how to adapt to the situation. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Florence for the conquest of Pisa. For your first Splendor ability, as Milan, I recommend taking Justified Wars. For your peace deal, just go ahead and take the one province of Pisa. You can take more, of course, you can take both of these. However, that's way too much aggressive expansion. We don't want to slow down our progress. So go ahead and just take the one province of Pisa, take all of their money, and take war reps. And after fighting all of those subsequent wars, your aggressive expansion within Italy and even in the HRE might be a little bit high, so it's time to chill for a couple of years, build some buildings, and get ready to continue expanding. And for your Tier 3 government reform, as Milan, I recommend taking Devotion to the People. Oh, and I didn't start this war against Bohemia. The Austrians just called me in. And after chilling for a year or two, it's time to get ready to fight your next war. And once again, always just look at your neighbors and see how their alliance networks are looking. In my case, the easiest one here is actually Bologna. Bologna is allied to my ally, the Papal States. However, since we're fighting in the war with the Austrians, the Papal States actually won't join. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Bologna for the conquest of Bologna. And for the peace deal with Bologna, if you can full annex them, like you should be able to, go ahead and full annex them. In my case, I actually can't full annex them because I don't have a land border with them. I just realized that now. However, if this does happen, no worries. Just go ahead and make them a vassal. We can go ahead and just feed them some of these other provinces here. As you can see, they actually have claims on some of this stuff in Ferrara, so they can actually be quite a useful vassal. So if for whatever reason, if you're like me and didn't pay attention and didn't realize you couldn't full annex them, just go ahead and make them a vassal and take all of their money. For your second idea group, as Milan, if you are planning on playing tall, then I recommend picking either innovativeness ideas or economic ideas. Both of these are really good. The policy with innovativeness and plutocratic is actually better than the one with economic. As you can see here, it's called the Education Act. You get extra yearly prestige and minus 10% advisor costs. Advisor cost discounts are always really nice. And for economic, you don't really get anything too significant. You really just get here plus 0.20. Republican tradition, really not that good. However, economic in and of itself contains some very nice playing tall ideas. Same for innovative. All of this stuff is very nice for playing tall. However, if you plan on blobbing with Milan and forming either Italy or potentially even forming the Roman Empire, then I recommend picking either espionage ideas for the aggressive expansion impact and the extra siege ability, along with the policy here that goes with plutocratic that gives plus 33% national manpower, as you can see there. Or if you're planning on blobbing, either espionage or administrative ideas. As you can see here, administrative plus plutocratic gives plus 10% national manpower and plus 10% tax. So these are the ideas. For your second idea group, if you plan on playing tall, then I recommend either innovative or economic for your second idea. However, if you plan on blobbing, then I recommend either espionage or admin. Since I have some spare Diplo points in my game, I'm going to go ahead and select espionage. And now it is time to get ready for your next war. Look around you again and see who you can attack. In my game, I can attack both Venice and Ferrara. As you can see here, Venice has now allied the French. And if you go ahead and look here, yes, I can call in Austria and the Pope. However, that is still really close, and I don't feel like fighting this massive war just yet. However, the person that I can go ahead and fight is Ferrara, as yes, Ferrara is allied to Aragon and the Pope. However, if I was to call in my ally of Austria, we would outnumber them significantly, and the Pope would not join. So for my next war, I'm going to go ahead and attack Ferrara. And for your second Splendor ability as Milan, I recommend taking Improved War Taxes. And now for your peace deal with Ferrara, if you took espionage ideas like I took, where you give the negative 20% aggressive expansion from state propaganda, then you will take this peace deal. You will basically just full annex Ferrara at 31 AE, however, again, you're taking 20% less. However, if you decided not to take espionage ideas, or you did but you haven't unlocked national propaganda yet or state propaganda, then go ahead and just take these two provinces here and leave them alive in one of the provinces. Honestly, even if you haven't taken that idea but you chilled for a couple of years like I told you in the guide, then you should still be able to full annex them whether you have aggressive expansion reduction or not. However, if you did take espionage ideas and you have already unlocked state propaganda, then definitely fully annex Ferrara. And now it is time to get ready to fight our next war. Now, depending on who you can attack, depends on what your next war is going to be. Ideally, you would want to fight the Venetians again. However, again, they're still allied with the French, and I don't think I can fight that until all of my allies join. However, what I am going to go ahead and do is attack Savoy. The reason you want to go ahead and attack Savoy is, number one, because we have a claim, and number two, because you actually need to complete this mission here called Fortify the Passes, where basically you need at least 3 provinces here. We only have one that have a castle. And I'll go ahead and show you what this does once we complete the mission, but it basically upgrades our castles like 100 years earlier. So depending on who you can go ahead and attack, ideally you'd want to go ahead and attack Venice once your truce is over so that you can complete your mission tree here called Expand into the South. However, if you can't, like me, then go ahead and attack Savoy. For your peace deal with Savoy, if again you took espionage ideas and you have the aggressive expansion reduction, then just go ahead and take something like this. Take this part if they still hold these provinces. However, if you don't have the aggressive expansion reduction, then just take something like this. However, no matter what idea group that you have, and no matter what peace deal that you take, make sure that you take the province of Saluzzo, as we need the province of Saluzzo to complete this mission called Fortify the Passes. So in my game, since I have the aggressive expansion reduction, I'm going to take all 3 of these provinces, all of their money, and war reps. And one of the very unique missions that is unique only to Milan here is this mission called Fortify the Passes. Basically, once you build enough castles here in some of these highlighted provinces, you can go ahead and take the mission called Fortify the Passes. Basically, all of the forts that are in these provinces will automatically get upgraded. At the start of the game, all forts are level 2. However, if you take this mission, all of your forts will automatically become level 4. It takes about 100 years from this point. It's in the late 1500s when you get level 4 forts. So you're basically getting level 4 forts almost 100 years early as Milan. For mountain provinces here, your mountain passes will basically be virtually impenetrable. So as you can see here, now they are level 4 bastions in 1492. That is insane. That is so overpowered. This mission alone basically makes Milan virtually impenetrable. And by this point in the game, your realm should look a little something like this. You should have pushed Savoy out of this part of Italy, annexed Saluzzo, and had at least 1 or 2 wars with Venice. Ideally, you'd want to have completed this mission here, where you will expand into the south. However, I wasn't able to do that since the Venetian alliances are way too strong. If I was to continue this game, basically I would attack Venice with the help of both Austria and Castile, and then call them in to fight that war. It would still probably be quite a hard war, but I think we'd be able to do it. And then after that, I would continue expanding into Tuscany and further into southern Italy, while also maybe popping off 1 or 2 wars against the French, seeing as what I could take from them. You should also continue down your mission tree here and see what you can accomplish. Go past Fortify the Pass. Make sure that you are developing all of your provinces here as Milan, as a lot of these trade goods here are very high value trade goods. As you can see here, lots of cloth here in Milan, lots of paper, and you'll be expanding into even more cloth and more paper into Venice and into the Papal States. As you can see here, there's very, very powerful missions within the Milanese mission tree. You can see we can form the Kingdom of Lombardy here, personally with Naples. We can even destroy Austria if we want to. A bunch of permanent modifiers here. The Milanese mission tree is very, very strong, and probably one of the strongest in Italy. This is what we took for our first two ideas. Like I said, for your first idea, you should definitely take plutocratic ideas as long as you went with a republic. And for your second idea, if you plan on blobbing, then go ahead and take either espionage or administrative. However, if you plan on playing tall, then take either economic or innovative. For your third idea group, I recommend taking either offensive or quality, as you want to buff up your army as much as possible, especially if you take the military dictatorship. You already have such a strong army that taking either quality or offensive will basically make your armies unkillable. And for your fourth idea group, it's really up to you. You can take either Diplo, which might be good. You could take Influence if you have a lot of vassals. You could, again, maybe even take Economic if you haven't taken it by that point. Even if you aren't playing tall, you could take another mill idea group. The choice is yours. And of course, for your 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, you can really take whatever you want and use those ideas to shape how your game is going along and pick those ideas accordingly. This is what we took for our first 3 government reforms. You can see we're about to hit our 4th one. For our 4th government reform, I recommend taking either lands for the church, as we're going to be using the papal interactions here quite often. However, if you think the clergy has too much influence, or you for some reason plan on going Protestant, then I recommend taking either maintain balance of power or curtail clerical privileges. For your tier 5 government reform, I recommend taking administrative divisions if you plan on blobbing, and if you're still in the HRE, you'll be struggling with governing capacity. However, if you don't plan on blobbing, or if you left the HRE, then go ahead and take Union of State. For your Tier 6 government reform, I recommend taking Presidential System. For your Tier 7 government reform, you can really take any of these. If you did take economic ideas, then take this one here. However, if you didn't, then you can really take any of these. Personally, I would take Curtail the Burghers, as the Burghers have quite a lot of influence here in my game. However, you can ultimately take whatever you want. These are all really good. For Tier 8, if you are still military dictatorship, then I recommend taking either Devolution of Powers or Broaden Executive Powers. For Tier 9, you can really take any of these, especially these policy ones. It depends what policies you have by this point in the game, so just pick whatever you need. None of these are really wrong. For Tier 10, I recommend taking either Landholders or Citizenry. Personally, I take Citizenry just for that extra morale. For Tier 11, I recommend taking Appointment by Committee, and for Tier 12, I recommend taking Federal Senate. These are our current alliance networks here as Milan. As you can see, I allied Castile and I allied Austria. My alliance with the Pope broke since I had to fight them. However, just try to have at least 2 great power allies, ideally Austria and someone here who might be a rival of France or Aragon. This has been a guide for the nation of Milan in EU4 1.34. Let me know what other nation I should do a guide for in the comments section below. Make sure you leave a like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel, as it helps out immensely. And thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time for another EU4 video.